So welcome back to the channel like always, and today I have a nice little review, well, less of a review and kind of the reasons. You see if you clicked on the video, you already know that I own the n20. Let me go ahead and take this out of the case itself. Just in case you guys are wondering what I'm recording off of, this is the LG Moto G Stylus 2022 edition for Metro by T-Mobile. So, you know, this is how the recording is going to look in low lighting. I did that on purpose for this reason because, you know, it is holiday season and I figure it's good to show you guys how these cameras look in real time so you have an idea of what it is you're getting yourself into. Now, this is the OnePlus n20 5G. 6 gigs of RAM. We already talked about specs in another video, but let me just kind of reiterate it. Snapdragon 695, 6 gigs of RAM. This does have a OLED screen, I believe, but unfortunately, it's only 60 hertz. Last year's model, which was the n10 5G, actually had 90 hertz, but it was an LCD. So some people feel that the screen is better, which it obviously is, but I prefer last year's model on the simple fact that 90 hertz is a huge difference, and to be honest, should be the standard for pretty much every phone coming out, especially mid-tier. If not 120, then at least 90 hertz. But it feels like they actually downgraded in some areas of this particular device. And we're going to talk about that right now. So with that being said, let me go ahead and just throw the intro in there and not waste any more time. All right, guys, so welcome back to the channel. Like always, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. But if you're here, it's 9 times out of 10 you're trying to figure out if this device is ideal for you. Now, this is already active, of course. When I buy phones, I buy them directly from the carrier, be it discount or regular price, to do these reviews. So, you know, bear with me with that one. But n20 5G, in case you're wondering, you see the title. Let me just reiterate that. It's doing a little reboot right now without actually setting it up. So one of the features that, to be honest, for some people is going to be an issue. For me, it was definitely an issue, especially if you're used to dealing with phones that tend to have 120 or at least 90 hertz. Last year's model of this device was 90 hertz, and believe it or not, they actually lowered that on purpose for whatever reason. They did give it an OLED screen instead, so your colors are going to pop more. The brightness is going to be much higher than the average phone, of course, but the problem is that this device only has 60 whopping hertz, but it is an OLED screen, so you know there's a takeaway and there's an addition to it. Personally, some people prefer the OLED screen and the sharpness and the brightness of it, but me, I prefer the 90 hertz because once you have a phone that has a higher hertz, it's very hard to go backwards in my opinion, unless you're using like a Pixel or something where you don't really notice it as much. But when it comes to mid-tier phones, trust me, when it comes to swiping left and right, up and down and things like that, you definitely notice that this is a mid-tier device. So, you know, as you can see, it still moves pretty quickly. But if you look at it compared to a 120 hertz screen, you are going to notice that as you're scrolling through applications and things like that, that it seems a little bit choppy or that your eyes feel a little bit more tired. That's just me. Because again, I'm used to 120 hertz phones. And just in case you're wondering, the video recorder that I'm using is the Moto G Stylus 2022. Moto G Stylus 5G 2022. It's sold under Metro, 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gig in processor. It actually has the same processor identical to this one. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And of course, when I'm going to do another video on the Moto, I'll record with this so you guys can see the camera on this. It's just to show you, I like to be very transparent with the products that I use so you have an idea of what it is that you're getting yourself into. Because a lot of times you'll see a camera, 50 megapixels, all these different things, but you don't know how that equates to real time and real time usage. And you're never going to know unless, of course, what's the word I'm looking for here? You use it in real time or you knew someone that used it. So just consider this a sample of the Moto camera. Anywho, moving forward, I know I'm a little all over the place. It's like 12 in the morning and I figured to do this video. The charging speeds on this guy. Now, for whatever reason, which here's a case that comes with it, one of the T-Mobile to-go cases, the $20 case. For whatever reason, when you use this particular device, right, what I noticed is that it has a 33 watt charger, which last year's only had a 30 watt, and you would think that this would be faster, theoretically anyway. But the problem is that this phone does not use warp charging at all. And that is a OnePlus signature. Instead, the N20 uses like some type of not ultra fast charging, but some type of fast charging, where after 30 minutes of it being on screen, of course, you get about 56% or so after 30-minute charge. So that's the average almost for every phone. When originally, I think the original one got like 70% in 30 minutes, which to me, the faster, the better. Now, what I will say is that with the current OnePlus devices, the 10T, that normally comes in 16 gigs of RAM, but it's sold under T-Mobile. So it comes in 8 gigs of RAM, but it has like a 125 watt charger. So you went from 0 to literally 100% in 20 minutes. And if you have a 50% charge or 56% charge, then under 10 minutes to 10 to 12 minutes or so, depending if you're using it. If you're not using it, under 10 minutes would charge it based on, you know, if you're 50% or so. So, you know, honestly, phones have gotten so fast over the years. Unfortunately, Apple and Samsung, and you know how Motorola and these other companies refuse to up the charging speeds. To me, if they up the charging speed, that would kind of knock out the OnePlus as a possible choice of phone to get, in my opinion. But I could be wrong about that. Some people do truly love OnePlus. I love the company personally and a lot of their products. But this phone really does fall short when it comes to fast charging. So if you're one of those people where you're like, you know what, I don't care, 30 minutes, 50-something% is the industry standard, I'm perfectly fine with that, then you'll be happy with using this phone. But if you're coming from last year's model and you're considering upgrading, this really isn't an upgrade to you guys, if we're being completely honest here. I mean, the processors are practically identical from last year. They're both the 695 Snapdragon. One might be slightly newer than the other because of a newer generation. But other than that, games don't really work better on this. And you know what? That's my next segue. We'll just talk about that, the gaming experience. When it came to games like Call of Duty Mobile and things like that, this just did not work very well for it at all. It did work. It does allow you to play Diablo Immortal, Call of Duty, Pokemon. All those games will work on this device. So, you know, for anyone that's buying this, don't worry, you're covered. The problem is that because of however the optimization is for gaming and the OLED screen, remember, the better the screen, the better the processor you're going to need for better optimization, because the graphics is going to be better for these games. It's the simplest way I can explain it without going to extreme tech details, and you're not here for that type of video. It lags. Call of Duty Mobile lags. The screen feels great when you're swiping left to right because of the OLED, but the screen, you know, it's 60 hertz, which means it doesn't feel as sharp. Even if you change the settings where you have it more fluid, like a higher touch rate. Basically what it means is if you go into certain games, you're able to change how the touch operates. So if you're trying to do 360 no scopes and spin around faster or move smoother, you have the option to actually change the settings in games and do that with any phone for that matter. Each game varies, of course, and it doesn't do a very good job. So if you're one of those people where you're playing professionally, Call of Duty, basically any game for that matter outside of Candy Crush, you're going to experience lag on this particular phone, especially when it comes to switching between applications in general. Right now it's moving very smooth, but I just saw a little lag when I happened to hit the home button and swipe away. But it's not as bad as it used to be. I'm assuming they did some updates or something for the software to make it a little bit smoother. I did use this phone personally for a little bit when it first came out, but as you just like scroll, you can just see where the screen is lacking with that 60 frames, and it really does make a difference slowing down your phone. Now, outside of that, you shouldn't have any other issues with the screen. You shouldn't have any other issues with the processor. It had a pretty decent signal for a 5G network. Sometimes I do have to switch it over to 4G LTE because 5G is a little iffy with OnePlus devices, I noticed. But, you know, and it really depends on the area that you're in terms of network. Now, if we're talking about camera, I'm going to be honest with you. The best camera, I hit the wrong thing. The best camera that you can actually get on the Metro by T-Mobile, that's like a prepaid or free phone or close to free, is going to be the Moto G Stylus 5G 2022, which I'm recording on. It seems to have the best camera out of all of them, in my opinion. Obviously not better than the S21 FE, but for the other devices, it seems that the cats are running around fighting. Of course they are. Anyway, to finish off this video, let me just go ahead and say that Here they are right here. Actually, let me pull it up here so you can see them. That one is running from that one, the little demon right there. But I'll finish this video out first and chastise her later. Yeah, so the cameras aren't bad. They're average. It's nothing to really write home about. If we're talking about processor, 695 Snapdragon, not the highest end thing out there. But given the fact this is a $299 phone, it's like, what do you honestly expect? Now, what I will say is, like I said, when you put this spec by spec next to last year's model, it's not really worth an upgrade outside of software. I think the software, last year's software was Android 11 or Android 10, I forget, and they did it 1 year worth of upgrade. Mid-tier devices don't get more than 1 year worth of upgrades. Now, if we talk about the Samsung A53 5G, I would never suggest that phone to anyone anymore because it's just way too laggy and it's way worse than A52 models, but Samsung still promised 3 years worth of updates. So for you that's doing basic tasks, Facebook, things like that, watching cameras, you're perfectly fine. But when it comes to like multitasking, and what I mean by that is Canva, UCut, editing software, things like that, not everyone has a computer. And some people use their phones primarily for everything. I originally was one of those people. Now I do use my computer more when it comes to editing software, but I still use my phone too. And this one does not hold up well with that. You can still edit. You can still go to multiple applications while you're editing. If you decide to convert a video, add music to it, and add different parts and do heavy editing, my suggestion is to just let it go through the process without using your phone, because you are going to experience slowdowns naturally. It's a mid-tier phone. It doesn't have a high-end processor. If you're using Canva, it might take time longer for pictures to load and things like that. Normally, I would show you all that stuff in real time. But to be honest, like I said, it's not that type of video. It's just more so of an informative video. So you're just hearing me ramble throughout most of it. And like I said, this video is being taken like 1 o'clock in the morning practically. So yeah, 1 something in the morning. So very, very tired. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the most part. I haven't had any other issues with it. When you delete photos, sometimes it might take a little bit time for certain videos and photos to delete if you do it in bulk, which can be very annoying. One of the other issues I had was when I stream, what's it called? Paramount Plus, I had an issue where it just kept skipping. Every couple seconds, it would just skip. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm assuming that the OnePlus software on this just isn't very compatible with that particular application. But Netflix, Hulu, Crunchyroll, all the other ones seem to work just fine. So again, that's also not a big deal. But I forgot to mention it's the price. Now this phone, new line, is $19. It actually changed in price. So if you're porting, it's obviously free. I will not suggest this as a port only because you can get the S21 FE for literally $99 as a port, and that's a $699 phone that you will keep for years to come, and it's going to outbeat every single phone Metro has to offer outside of the iPhones 13 and 14. It's the only ones that's going to beat out that phone. And if you're an Android user, obviously that's the best way to go. But I mean, yeah, outside of that, the screen is 60 hertz. It's not a plus, it's a minus to me, but it is OLED, so they switched it out. Obviously, that's going to look a lot better in colors. It's going to look better when you're outside in the sun, especially if you have the brightness higher. And if I turn the brightness up now, because of that OLED screen, it's just much, much sharper than a regular cheap ass LCD. I just cursed. A regular cheap LCD screen that you're used to dealing with. That's about it. It's not much really else to say about this particular phone outside of that. Yeah, it's not bad for the holidays. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad. But if you're looking for that OnePlus experience that you're used to with the charging, you are not going to get it with this device. Same with the N300 5G. They might have a faster charger in the box, the N300, but this is comparable to that phone. I would still go with the N20 overall because of the internal memory, 6 gigs of RAM and things like that. But they're very similar phones, and it feels very, very lazy in my opinion when you use it over time. Like initially when I get it out of the box, it's not a bad phone. And this isn't a contradiction to my review on this phone. It's just more so I have to look at the customer base that's looking for a phone like this. And then once you find a phone like this, yes, talking, texting, sending messages, web browsing, everything's going to be fine for you. But you might experience lag going to certain applications, switching between applications, things like that. Like when I used to go to this right here, it would lag from time to time. Like you saw it jump a little bit. I don't know if it shows it on the camera, but it jumps. It is a little bit laggy. It is a smaller screen, 6.4 I believe, so it's not the biggest screen in the world. Still not bad or anything like that. And again, for you new time customers that are used to lower end devices, you'll be fine with this. You'll probably be smiling to be happy with this because it'll be a major upgrade to the A03s and A13s of the world. But once you go a caliber higher than that, you know, you'll understand what I'm talking about when I say productivity and things like that on this phone is just substantially lower. Camera isn't really that good. If you're a YouTuber or a vlogger, not a vlogger, but a YouTuber and things like that, and you record it, you're not going to get the highest quality of recordings. I just got to be honest with you there. It's going to suffer. Even your voice on camera is going to suffer a little bit because the speakers just aren't that good. And if you're using a Bluetooth like AirPods, Anchor headphones, certain ones, you shouldn't have a problem with audio. But if you're using a regular speaker, it's average at best. Just got to be honest with you. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Outside of that, I haven't had any real issues. No overheating. You know, there hasn't been a reason for me to restart the phone, like network issues, things like that. I just haven't had any of those particular problems, but it does feel like a downgrade compared to last year's model when you consider the fact that you went from 30 minutes 70-80% to 30 minutes 50% for charging, and that is a huge difference for us chargy folk. But anyway, that's it. Like always, like and subscribe, and hopefully you see this video before Black Friday. I'm actually going to post it on Black Friday. And before you walk into the store, if someone sees this video, I'm going to suggest the Moto G Stylus 2022 5G over it. Stylus, screen size, charging might be slower, but it has a 120 hertz screen. It just runs a whole lot smoother and a whole lot better. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.